tell it themselves, and a story that I feel has never truly been told. You hear this name mentioned at graduation every year, and you can see it on various memorials around LaRue County, including at our school. But Matt Hansen is more than just a name to me, and I hope after hearing his story, he is to you as well. My brother met Matt in high school. His senior year, they were inseparable. He seemed to be at my house more than his own, along with a gang of extra big brothers who were always there to remind me when I'd forgotten that I was short, or a little girl, or not cool enough to hang out with them. I pestered them too, of course, but I loved acting as the kid sister to so many great guys. Matt was born January 21st, 1990, on a military base in Germany. His family moved to LaRue County from Lansing, Michigan. At LaRue County, he was an offensive lineman on the football team. He was active in the Student Technology Association. He was a third period office aide, a jokester, and as his mother says, could talk his way out of anything. Matt graduated in this gym with the class of 2008. Fitting to his personality, Matt's senior quote was a line from none other than Ferris Bueller. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around every once in a while, you can miss it. Matt went after his dream of joining the Marine Corps his senior year. Former football coach Rodney Arms said he got his hair cut short and he was a Marine from the day he signed up. He went to boot camp shortly after graduation. By late 2009, he was a rifleman assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment, 2nd Marine Division, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. In January 2010, he was deployed to Afghanistan for his first tour. Lance Corporal Matthias Newman Hansen was killed in action February 21st, 2010 in the Helmand province of Afghanistan during what the Associated Press calls a major offensive against the Taliban in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. Matt's funeral was held in this gym on the 27th, and he was buried in Buffalo with full military honors. Due to his actions during a multi-day battle, when his platoon came under fire, Camp Hansen, once the largest U.S. position in Marja, was established in his honor. He was awarded the National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, and was a Purple Heart recipient. On September 10th, Mitch McConnell took to honoring Matt on the Senate floor. He told of what Matt Sadlow had shared about the last time he saw him before he deployed. It was Christmas Eve 2009. He hugged me around the neck and said, "Dad, don't worry. Everybody dies, not everybody has Jesus, and not everybody gets to be a Marine." Matt made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, and on the day he lost his life, 2 people lost a son, a few more a brother. My brother lost his best friend, and my mom lost a young man she loved as a son. A lot has changed since we lost Matt. I'm not that little girl crying on my mother's shoulder, confused as to why somebody so young would have to go be an angel, as my mother told me then. Many of Matt's classmates are married with children. I can no longer remember the sound of his voice. Standing here at 5'6" and 17 years old, he could no longer pick me up and throw me over his shoulder with ease. I can only imagine where he'd be today, maybe standing in my spot talking to all of you. Maybe you won't understand how thankful you should be until you've seen a 21-gun salute and heard taps played over a flag-draped casket, though I hope you never do. Maybe you don't have any veterans in your family, and maybe your other half isn't 1,000 miles away. But everyone has the capacity to realize that we are able to be here today because of our veterans. Every branch, every boot on the ground that made it home safe, and every casket covered in a flag took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. I hope you leave here today with a heightened admiration for those who have worn the uniform at any point in their lives, whether it was 20 years ago or the brave men and women who still do so today. As I finish, let this applause be not for me, but every member, past and present, of the greatest military in the world.
This time I would like to recognize our speaker. Major retired Chris Klein entered service in December 1985 as a Cavalry Scout in Detachment 1 HHC, 3rd Battalion, 109th Armor Regiment, Tennessee Army National Guard, Dixon, Tennessee, as a private first class. He was commissioned second lieutenant in December of 1988 from Austin Peay State University as an armor officer and assigned to the mortar platoon in Detachment 1 HHC, 3rd Battalion, 109th Army Regiment. Upon graduation from college in 1990 with a degree in music education, he moved to LaRue County where he taught middle school band and music. He was then assigned to Delta Company, 2nd Battalion, 123rd Armor Regiment, Kentucky Army National Guard in Owensboro, Kentucky. Over the course of service, Major Klein served in a variety of roles from tank platoon leader, executive officer, company commander, S1 personnel officer, S4 logistics officer, S9 Civil Military Operations Officer, and S3 Operations Officer, as part of Joint Force Headquarters Mobilization and Plans Officer. Major Klein has deployed to Bosnia-Herzegovina, Operation Joint Force 2002 to 2003, as part of the NATO peacekeeping mission in the Balkans. Also Iraqi Operation Freedom 2006-2007, and Afghanistan Operation Enduring Freedom 2011-2012. Awards include Army Achievement Medal, Army Recommendation Medal, NATO Non-Article 5, Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, Global War on Terror Ribbon, Meritorious Service Medal, Kentucky Meritorious Service Medal, Bronze Star Combat Action Badge. Major Klein retired from service in December 2012 after 27 years of service. Please welcome Major Retired Chris Klein.
Thank you. You know what? I'm going to chuck this because Haley nailed it. Thank you very much. No. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for inviting me. Thank you, veterans, for being here. Thank you, Nina, to represent General Cundiff. God bless you. This whole Veterans Day thing started as an Armistice Day. On the 11th hour, the 11th month, of the 11th day, November 11th, that was the armistice signed for, or the armistice agreed to at the end of the Great War, World War I. It was the worst war that had been fought in the world. It involved, so many nations, and it was devastating. And they thought that was going to be the last one, the last war. In 1954, well after the Second World War, which they never thought would happen, Dwight D. Eisenhower said, we're going to honor all the veterans, not just the ones from the First World War. So it became Veterans Day. He signed it on Veterans Day. And that's good because it's not just it wasn't just the First World War. Guys, the United States has defended what's right in the world since the 1800s, since the Marines landed in Tripoli to fight the Barbary pirates. We have been a force for good in this world since our inception. And that's what this is all about. It's about service. Now, I come from a family of service. Okay, my dad was a paratrooper from the 101st Airborne Division when they actually jumped out of airplanes. Okay, now they rappel from helicopters. He was assigned to 11th Special Forces Group before he finally got out. I had a grandfather who was a tank driver during the Second World War. a grandfather who was in a P-51 Mustang unit back when the Air Force was the Army Air Corps. I had an uncle that served in Turkey as part of the Air Force, and an uncle that did 2 tours of Vietnam in the Navy. My son, Evan Klein, graduated from here, went on to join the military, and he spent his time with the 20th Special Forces Group. And then there's me. I've had service modeled to me, demonstrated to me all my life. Not just military, but in community as well. It's been a big deal. Somehow, there's always been serving others, and that's what we've made this part of. So when you're thanking a veteran, you're thanking him for his service. Well, you know what? I'm also going to thank those families of those service members. Because while I'm out gallivanting in the world or around the state, my family's still got to go on doing the everyday thing. To this day, my daughter Emmy will not let me forget the fact that I was not there when she was born. I was on my way to Bosnia, and I didn't get to know her until she was 10 months old. Now, she doesn't remember that, but she remembers the stories. And guys, once you tell a girl something like that, they're just not going to let you forget it. That'll be the first thing that comes up in the argument. Well, remember when? But that's all part of the service. That's all part of what was going on. Now, I'm out there doing this, and all the veterans are out here, and they do these things, and they're serving others. Guys, we are a force for good in the world, and I can't say that enough, because you know why? I don't think that you guys have heard that. I don't think you get that from the media. I don't think you get that from politicians. It gets lost. If you look around the world, there is no place else where the American flag flies. Only in America. Now, you'll see it at embassies, right? Because that's a sovereign, each embassy in the world is a sovereign land, okay, for that country. So yeah, okay, it'll fly. It'll fly over that. We are not conquerors. Okay, we are people who go out and help. We go out to defend. And we've always done that. We have always done that. We go, we do what we need to do, we come home. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you war stories. I might tell a few. Heck, I'm in the military. Everybody tells a war story in the military. But I will tell you this. There's a couple. I went to Bosnia. Now, we'd been in Bosnia since 1996, right? We were still there. We were told we were going to come home by Christmas, but they just didn't tell us what year Christmas was going to be. But in 2003, as my unit was getting ready to come home, we were handing it off to another unit. We were from Kentucky. The unit we were handing it off to was from Minnesota. Now, this is a country who is engulfed in a horrible, horrible civil war. If you ever want to read a book that'll keep you up at night, read Endgame about the Bosnian War. It was horrible. What people could do to other people is just unimaginable. So this unit come in, and they were going to take over from us. And we found out, now the unit that I served in, okay, most of my career was 2nd of the 123rd Armor. It's traced its heritage back to a Confederate unit in the Civil War called the Orphan Brigade. The unit that replaced us was from Minnesota. And we got to talking and realized that that unit that was replacing us, we actually fought against at the Battle of Chickamauga during our Civil War. So we were able to take that information to the radio stations and to the people of Bosnia and say, look, you know what? You guys have been in a horrible war. It's been devastating for you personally. It's been devastating on the families. But there's hope. Because we went through a civil war and lost millions of people, millions of Americans. And we reconciled. There's still hope for you. And you know what? We left. NATO is pulled out of Bosnia now. The EU has a presence, but they're not fighting. They're getting along. They're at peace. Hey, when America goes someplace, it gets the job done. I went to Iraq 2006, 2007. I was part of this, I was there before the surge, so I got to see the surge happen. And there was a concept that had been thrown around. It was used briefly. It was used in the Vietnam War, but they wanted to bring it back. Petraeus wanted to bring it back. It was called counterinsurgency. And so we were going to use counterinsurgency. Now, none of us knew what the heck. We couldn't spell it, much less, use it. I was reading a book called How to Eat Soup with a Knife, so I could learn how to do this. So it was a new concept. I was a civil military operations officer, and basically, it's a little bit of it, but it was a hearts and minds thing. We're going to come into your community. We're going to show you, hey, you know what? We care about what goes on. We care about you. We want you to know that. We're going to do what we're going to do for you, with you, teach you, mentor you, and then we're going to back off and let you run things. That's what that was all about. Now, the community that we were patrolling in West Baghdad hadn't seen American forces on the ground. They'd never had a patrol go through their community. And the war, hey, it was 2003 when we invaded. It's 2006, and they still hadn't seen an American soldier. Because it was that bad. Things were that bad there. It was a gunfight every day with those guys. So we went, and I'll never forget, it was December 16th, 2006. And the reason I remember that is because when the gunfight started, I'm hunkered down behind a concrete barrier, looking at my watch. And I got stuff flying around me. I look at my watch and thinking, my kids are halfway to Disney right now. They're on their way to Disney, and they have no idea what's going on. When the operation was over, I came in with humanitarian support, blankets, food, heating fuel, things like that. Things that the people needed because they were cut off from the rest of Baghdad. And we said, I told the leader there in that little community, look, when you kick doors, you break stuff. And I said, we're going to contract it out. I'm going to get everything fixed that we broke. We're going to fix it. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. We're going to get bad guys out so that you can live in peace. First few months of patrolling there, it was a gunfight every day. Count on it. You could almost set your clock by it. There was no commerce, no stores. The kids wouldn't play in the streets. The women were dressed from top to bottom, fully covered. Men looked at you like, what are you doing here? After a while, when they got to know us, and let me tell you, when I went to Iraq, I was with the 1st of the 149th Infantry. This is a National Guard Infantry Battalion out of eastern Kentucky. Barberville, London, Middlesboro, Hazard, Ravenna. These boys loved to talk. They didn't speak Arabic. Heck, half of them couldn't hardly speak English. But it was like we knew each other. We let those guys do what they do best, and that's talk to people. Better than any ambassador, we hire ambassadors to go out and talk to top people, talk to big people, talk to other leaders, world leaders. I got a sergeant, I've got an E5 on the ground that's getting more done because he's talking to the people that do what needs to be done. By May, June of 2007, I had 60 different businesses running. I had a marketplace rebuilt in that community. We had a city council that was learning to operate. Guys, I had to go back to 7th grade civics I had to go back and read some 7th grade civic stuff so that we could mentor for them how to hold on to a city council, how to run things in their government. And to this day, you know what, to this day, it's still in operation. It still works. It's not anything personally that I did. We were able to give them some stability. I still have friends there. We still wish each other a Merry Christmas and Happy Birthday. He's a dentist. I found that out because when we were searching the houses and buildings, we were searching his office. And we didn't realize it was a dentist office until we got in and saw, oh, there's a dentist chair. Oh, there's a degree from UCLA hanging up on his wall. This guy spoke better English than any of us. He was taught in California how to be a dentist. He knew what America was about. And by the time we left there, they all knew. The two things that they would ask me, okay, when I talked to the people, they were like, "You're American." I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's what the patch is on my shoulder. Yeah, I'm American." He goes, "You're Christian." I went, "Yeah." He says, "This is how the Christians treat us." Our own country doesn't do this. Guys, the American soldier, airman, Marine, they're all out there doing great things. The ones that are sitting before us right here that have done their job, they have done it, they've been out there. They're the ones that set the standard for me. These are the ones that set the standard for my generation. They set it high, and that's what we had to work from. So I'm hoping that by the time I left in 2012 that I had set it higher for the next year, for you guys. Not all of you guys are going to be in the military. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. But you know what? Everybody in here has an ability, and quite frankly, I feel, an obligation to serve in some way. Serve in the community, serve in your state, serve in your county, church, your family. If we would all take on that, just take on that one responsibility to find a way to serve, that changes everything. It literally changes everything. Okay, one last war story, and then we'll call it a day. Okay? And I'm going to tell you this because my daughter said, tell that story. You guys have played, a lot of you guys have probably played Modern Warfare, right? Just for the record, that's not realistic. If you can run through and jump off buildings like that in body armor, you're a heck of a man. But anyway, there's music that goes with that. Now, as you heard, I was a music major. I was a music teacher. So music's a big part of my life. When you're playing those games, you hear music in the background. Well, guess what? In the real world, when it's a gunfight, there's no music. So I'm hunkered down behind this vehicle as we're going through the streets trying to keep from getting shot. We're hiding behind the vehicle. And I look, there's a sergeant behind me, and there's a sergeant in front of me. And I'm like, there's no music. And the guy behind me is like, sir? I said, there's no music. Listen. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, in the games when you do this, there's music. So I'm hunkered down behind the vehicle. We're getting back into the gate, trying to fight our way back into the gate. And I'm back there hunkered down going, dun, 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 dun. And they're like, you are nuts. Okay, that's my story. Listen, I want to close out by saying thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for setting the standard for me so that I could raise it, so that we could raise a standard for them. And we're going to increase this. Thank you very much.